What's kicking, people? We are back for another edition of Pickin Fights. Before we get started, make sure you hit that like button, you hit the subscribe button. I am joined, as always, by my buddy Tom. Tom, how are you tonight?
I'm hanging in there, man. A lot of great fights coming up this weekend. A lot to talk about. I don't think we can get to them all before people start zoning out. So let's try and go rapid fire today.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk about them with you. And we're joined by a very special guest tonight. His name is Nick B. You can find him on Instagram at Nick B Photos. Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where can we find you online?
Yeah, so you can find me at NickB_photos on Instagram, and on TikTok, I do a lot of content on there as well at Nick B Photos. I do a lot of photography and videography and social media content creation. I've worked with anywhere from graduates at college to celebrities to professional athletes to big-time influencers. So I've done it all, and I've been doing it for almost 10 years now. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's a long career, especially a young guy at your age. So I did do a little bit of creeping on your Instagram page, and you've got some of my favorite photos I've seen in a while. Super vibrant, great colors, and you got a lot of baby tigers on there as well. Some of my favorite shots with those baby tigers with people like Logan Paul. You had one with you standing with Floyd Mayweather. I believe you had Mike Mjalak on there, D'Angelo Russell, and an all-time favorite, The Undertaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, Liz is going to throw those up on screen right now. Nick, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences photographing fighters and athletes and what it's like to work with tigers? Are they always cooperative, or do they try to bite your subject's head and arms off?
Yeah, so I've actually done a lot of work with the Myrtle Beach Safari here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which is where I'm based. And if you don't know Myrtle Beach Safari, I'm sure you know of the Netflix documentary, sensationalized television series, The Tiger King, which, I was in the thick of for the 4 years while it was being filmed and the 8 years total that I was working at that facility total. But working there, I got the privilege of working with some of the biggest celebrities, athletes, influencers in the world, from Logan Paul to Floyd Mayweather to the Undertaker, Marquise Goodwin, Odell Beckham Jr., the list goes on. And, dealing with those kinds of people at that level, it's something that you just can't replicate anywhere else. Working with, a Floyd Mayweather, who's, the richest athlete in the world, and, a Colby Covington, one of the most popular UFC fighters in the world. So, it's pretty cool to do all that. And, as my career has progressed, I've learned a lot, and I've, been able to take advantage of those connections as my career has gone on.
Did you get to meet Joe, the Tiger King, or was he in jail at that point?
I've met Joe. I met Joe probably a year before the filmers for Tiger King came. It was cool meeting him. He was definitely a kind of guy where he turns it on when the cameras turn on. He's super mellow, super cool. You can tell he's a little different, but when the cameras come on and someone's taking pictures and videos of him, he probably just becomes a character of his own, which everyone saw.
Love cool. That sounds a lot like a lot of our UFC fighters here. They're cool, mellow guys off camera, like you'd mentioned before we started filming with Colby Covington. And then you turn on the camera, you get the clicks going, and the cameras are going, and they become this whole character. They embody this persona outside of who they normally are, but it does sell tickets. It gets people in the doors. It gets people streaming on Netflix. So it works for them.
Yeah, I think it's funny because, it's cool to see it happening because, Floyd Mayweather gets out of his big Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van, right? And he has 10 foreign women with him and, 12 different bodyguards of different statuses from, guys with, packing heat. And there's guys, just big 7-foot tall dudes. And there's other guys who just are plainclothes guys, but they're going to fuck you up, right? And then, he walks around just nonchalant with a Lakers jersey on, just hanging out. But when it's time for pictures, he gets his hat on, he gets his big gold chain on, just has to show up. It's showtime, right? Even, Logan Paul, the coolest guy I've ever met in my life, when you're thinking about it as, ooh, wow, that's that guy, right? But when you meet him, you're like, wow, this is the coolest guy ever. So they all have this character that they know they have to put on, but people, I think it's very interesting. I talk to people all the time. They say, man, I hate that guy, Logan Paul. I hate Jake Paul. But I'm like, you have no idea what they're like off the camera. And they're just like you and me. They just have something that they have to live up to because that's their job. Just like you go to your 9 to 5 or you go do your job doing whatever you do, you got to put on a character because you're not going to be the same person at work that you are at home. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, that's so awesome, man. So we have someone very credible here within the fight world, a professional photographer. And when Tom and I make it big, we're going to be calling you up to take our pictures with baby tigers. All right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
So with that being said, we're going to jump into our locks of the week. I have a couple of prelim locks here. I'll do one. I'll give it over to Tom to do one, and then I'll do my last one. Whatever others he has after that, he can fill in. So first one I got for you. We got Joanne Calderwood. She's coming in at minus 125 versus Lauren Lucky Murphy coming in at plus 105. So first off, I do want to mention here that this is a lock, not only because of who I'm picking, but also because this is a must-watch fight. You got to be locked in front of your TV for it. It has a lot of potential to be a banger, and it could possibly shake up the women's flyweight division a bit. There's going to be a title shot coming out of this fight, but this division is controlled by Valentina Shevchenko, and we always need new contenders to step in there against her and potentially get TKO'd. So Joanne Calderwood, just to start, she's so technically sound. You see that in a lot of her recent fights, especially in her last one against OnlyFans foot model Jessica I. Despite being 34, she's still the younger fighter in this fight. She's very crisp. She lands 49% of her strikes and almost 7 significant strikes per minute. She does a lot of damage with knees and elbows in the clinch and uses that clinch very well, and has 55% takedown accuracy, and also boasts a solid defense on striking at 53% strikes blocked or avoided. Lauren Murphy, on the other hand, she's older in this fight. In her second to last fight, she beat a fighter that we all hate, Roxanne Modafferi. I mean, who doesn't follow her on social media and then immediately block her because she's so annoying? She does have a 2-inch longer reach on paper. That's about the only thing going for Lauren Murphy in this one. She only has 4 significant strikes landed per minute as opposed to Joanna's, and she's only got 38% striking accuracy. She does have a slightly better defense standing and against takedowns. Takedown defense is at 70%, but low takedown accuracy at 37%. So we're not going to see a lot of ground fighting in this one. It's going to take place heavily on the feet. These chicks are going to go out. They're going to bang. They're going to throw a lot of punches. No, you know what? I don't just think. I'm locking this in right now. That's why I called it a lock. Joanne Calderwood is going to piece up Lauren Murphy and end Murphy's 4-fight win streak here, potentially by knockout and adding another one to that column. So, Tom, Nick, do you guys have anything for me on that one? Any comments?
No, I was going to take Joanne Calderwood anyway. I think this is going to be a card kind of dominated by Aussies and people from New Zealand. What are they called if they're from New Zealand? They're called something cool.
Kiwis,
yeah. The Aussies and the Kiwis are going to dominate this card. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
All right.
Man, how are you guys not going with the American, man? That's rough. I mean, Murphy's got what, a 2-inch reach on her? I don't know. She could definitely cock back and just nail her, man.
It's definitely possible.
But I mean, what's her knockout ratio?
Let's see. So she has 8 knockouts and 1 submission win, as opposed to Joanne Calderwood, who has 5 knockouts and 1 submission win. I just think when you look at those numbers and those percentages and who Calderwood's fought most recently as opposed to who Murphy has fought most recently, like Murphy is fighting absolute scrubs. Everyone hates Roxanne Modafferi. She only won by a decision. So I really just like Calderwood here. When you break down those numbers, you watch a little bit of tape on her, you see how well she uses the clinch, you see how well she lands the significant strikes. Those are the big numbers right there. Almost 7 per minute, I think. Like, you can't pass that up. I think it's just going to be total domination out of Calderwood. Yes, I would love to take an American here. Everyone that watches me knows I loved Mike Chandler because he was going to bring the belt back to America. Love Rose Namajunas because she did bring the belt back to America. But in this case, I feel like it would be crazy to take the American here. And then also, I'm going to be taking Calderwood straight too, because at minus 124, that's not a bad line to stake somebody straight. And because she's my lock, I'll be throwing her into my parlay as well. So, Tom, what locks do you have for us?
I have Chase Hooper over Steven Peterson. I think it's the second or third fight in the card, so it'll be fairly early in the day. So you may miss it, you may not, but I suggest you tune in. Chase Hooper is kind of he calls himself the dream because he used to be the teenage dream, but now that he's 22, I guess he's got to get away from the teenage. So I think he even mentioned it's an ode to Katy Perry because he loves Katy Perry.
Love it.
I like Katy Perry, but. No, he recently had a loss, and you realize that after that fight that maybe Chase Hooper isn't as ready as we thought he was. Again, the kid's 21 years old. I think he did his first UFC fight in 19 or something. So he's very, very young, and I think they want to kind of make him the face of the UFC, but they know he's not ready yet. He recently had a loss, and now they're giving him a guy like Steve Peterson, who was on a 2-fight losing streak against 2 low-level unranked half of the division. 2-fight losing streak, then had a TKO in round 2 over Martin Bravo, who was then cut by the UFC anyway, so still not anyone substantial. I don't think Steven Peterson, he's 18-9, so he's definitely beatable, and I think that they're just going to kind of sacrifice Steven Peterson to Chase Hooper, and Steven Peterson is more of a striker, whereas Chase Hooper is more of a grappler. That being said, I think him and his long range is going to be able to keep Steven Peterson away. And if Steven Peterson gets too close, I think Chase is going to find a way to get his hips. So I'm going to make that a lock. I don't think the UFC is going to give Chase someone who's going to be too much of a competition for him, but they at the same time can't look like they're just giving him nobody. So I think this is going to be a good matchup for him. I think he ultimately gets it done probably in the second round, but if you've ever watched the show before, I don't like to pick rounds. I don't like to pick methods. I like to just pick them straight up. So all of my picks you may not want to bet on just because maybe they're too heavy of favorites, or maybe they're I guess if I think they're going to win and they're a heavy dog, that would make you want to bet on it. But regardless, the odds may not match up with what my picks are, and I'm picking because I think they're going to win, not because of, for betting reasons, and I think Chase Hooper's going to win.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. And love the Katy Perry nickname. Don't necessarily love her music, but do love Katy Perry for other reasons outside of her music. And yeah, you're right. We're going to see a lot of those setup fights on this card where they're looking to pump a lot of names. They know that there's going to be a lot of eyes here. There's going to be a packed stadium, packed arena. So yeah, they're definitely looking to elevate some people's reputations in the eyes of household fans and people like that. And even in, the people that make the rankings out there. Nick, you got anything for us there? Are you familiar with Chase Hooper?
So I actually am not familiar with him, probably because he's so young, like Tom was saying. But, I do like a little – it seems like it may not be an underdog story, but I kind of like the young guy coming up. I always liked what's his name? The colorful hair dude. What's his name?
Sean O'Malley.
O'Malley, yeah.
O'Malley, yeah. So as he was coming up, I was following him a little bit. And I love his personality, his go-getter kind of mentality. So maybe Hooper has it in him. It'd be kind of interesting to see how he shapes up for his career.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too. When it comes to Sean O'Malley, they do set him up with a lot of easy fights for him, or what should be easy fights for him. We saw in his fight against Chito Vera that it wasn't as easy as it should have been. But yeah, very similar mentality. He's got the personality. He is a social media guy. I don't even follow Chase Hooper, and there's not a day where the algorithm isn't putting him on my timeline just because, A, they're funny, they're liked a lot, and B, I do follow a lot of UFC personalities. But yeah, I don't even need to follow them because they're trying to pump them up so much right now. I think it's like a little maybe collusion between UFC and the Twitter algorithm right now, trying to get him out on everybody's screens. But yeah, very similar. Yeah, very similar thing. They're trying to pump these guys up, and I think Tom is 100% right there. It is a pump-up fight for Chase Hooper. So I'm going to move on to my next lock now. We got Eric Anders. He's coming in at -145 versus Darren Stewart, who's +115. These two guys last fought together back in March. Exact same matchup, and Eric Anders actually knocked out Stewart with an illegal knee. And Stewart won on paper. But don't let that fool you. Anders was piecing up Stewart the entire fight. He was clobbering Stewart, and Stewart had absolutely no answers for him. Now, unfortunately, a lot of fighters saw Aljamain Sterling take that illegal knee to the face by Jan and realized, maybe Stewart was really knocked out, but we saw this a few weeks ago in one of the women's fights. You take an illegal strike, if you say it hit you hard enough and you hurt hard enough, that's an automatic dub for your W column. I don't know if that's what happened here with Stewart. I'm going to have to go back and watch that one again and see his reaction. But, again, he's the only guy that's going to know that at the end of the day, right? But Anders was winning that fight. And if not for that illegal knee, he probably would have just knocked Stewart out with his hands. I mean, he was piecing Stewart up. So since this is such fast turnaround, they both fought last in March. Not really long enough for Stewart's chin or his concussed, potentially brain to recover. I'm taking the former Alabama football player Eric Anders as a lock to repeat his last performance, minus the knee, to win this one. What do you guys think there?
Perfect. I like it. I was going to pick Anders a lot. Generally, when you have matchups, rematches, it's going to favor the guy who's winning or had won the first time. So I think, this is a card full of rematches. As a preview to the rest of the video, I think you'll find that I kind of tend to lean with that rule of thumb anyway.
Okay. Nick, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree. I actually watched that fight as well. But the thing is, I think a lot will have to do with that recovery process from that actual fight that they just had. Because you never know how long-lasting those things are, right? And you don't know, Stewart may come into this fight a little bit more prepared. Maybe he took it a different way the first time. So, we'll see based on that. But I think Anders should catch him a couple times. But, it's kind of a toss-up. I think it's not as – it may not be a lock in my book just because there's too many factors going into this fight compared to the first fight.
Yeah, that's really a fair argument. You never know if Stewart is going to come back and be like, okay, this is Anders' game plan for the last time. He's probably going to come out the same way because he was beating me. We'll see. I mean, I love the pushback here, Nick. Most people come on here and they're like, okay, I like this pick. I like this pick. I love the pushback on these. So, Tom, do you have any other locks for us here?
No other locks, but a fight to watch is going to be Drew Dober versus Brad Riddell. Personally, I think Brad Riddell is going to win, but this is basically a fight between two guys who like to strike. I think Brad Riddell is a little bit better. I think he has a little bit more of a wrestling game. But Drew Dober, he's not going to be one who's going to engage. So it's going to be two guys who are standing up, fighting. Brad Riddell 9-1, Drew Dober 23-10, a little bit of a journeyman. So both got, Brad Riddell wants to avenge that last loss. Drew Dober, he wants to prove that he's more than a journeyman. Both guys like to stand and bang. Both, they definitely throw leather. Both younger guys. Drew Dober a little older at 32. Brad Riddell 29, but both, right around their prime where it's like, now I want to get it done. I think this will be a great fight. It's in the lightweight division. I think these could potentially be some guys that we see, moving forward, maybe in a year or 2 years, we'll see them maybe the top 10, top 5 of the division. Brad Riddell, another Aussie. So makes me want to pick him even more. And, for those reasons, also just want to throw this in there. Drew Dober looks like an action figure. I mean, if you look up a picture of this guy, he absolutely looks like fake. He looks like an action figure that doesn't have joint cuts. So, I don't know what to make of that, but I'm still going to pick Brad Riddell.
Yeah, this is tough for me. I probably won't be touching this one with my wallet because I am a slight Drew Dober fan, but sometimes he goes out there and he looks like absolute dog crap, and then other times he goes out there and you're like, okay, this guy could be a contender at some point. But I do favor Brad Riddell here. Don't really feel like I'm not too strong on it one way or another. I'm not feeling anybody too heavily one way or another, but it definitely is a fight to watch. I have a feeling it'll end in a knockout. Don't know who it's going to be knocking out who, but we'll have to see. Nick, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, so as a former wrestler myself back in high school, I kind of like to give a little bit of a nod to the guys who do grapple, right? Because you just once not everybody's a grappler. So once someone has a little bit of an edge on that area of, fighting, you don't know because, put it this way. Sean O'Malley, great striker, right? Get him on the ground, different story, So I don't know how well versed Dober is in the grappling aspect compared to Riddell, but, who knows? But so Riddell has, 9-1. He's looking to make a statement win against, like you said, a journeyman, that could elevate him to, a better status.
Yeah. So, quick question, Nick. Would you say that Sean O'Malley is your favorite fighter on the roster right now? Or if not him, who would it be?
I like O'Malley. I just reference him because he's in my world of like the content because he's hanging out with the Jake Pauls of the world and although that crew in LA. So it's just like I see him a lot because he's always in content. So he has that. I like that mindset because it's just going to keep him relevant over time and kind of take him away from the UFC a little bit, which is good because it's just going to extend his career. But I like Adesanya. Honestly, even though I like him, I do see him possibly having taken an L in this match. I mean, we'll get to that, but
Good call.
But I like Usman. I like Usman a lot. I liked Khabib a lot, but I guess I definitely am favorable to O'Malley just because I like his personality.
Yeah. Quick note on that. We posted up on our Instagram story. If you aren't following already, it's at Pickin Fights on Instagram. Back to that, being in content and keeping you relevant for a long time. Paulo Costa keeps asking for main event money. He says, I want to be paid as much as Jake Paul. I want those millions to fight. Well, Paulo Costa isn't exactly a championship belt holder right now. Yep. And his last few performances would be what some might call piss poor. He was like, I was drinking a ton of wine the night before, stuff like that. And Dana White's response to him was, if you want that YouTuber money, you should have been 13, made a YouTube account, blown your name up, and maybe you would have gotten that YouTuber money. So we'll move on to the main card now. First off, we have Paul Craig coming in at plus 220 versus Jamahal Hill at minus 290. So off rip, I do want to say I love Paul Craig's nickname, the Bear Jew. Reference to the great Quentin Tarantino film Inglourious Bastards. Everybody remembers the Bear Jew was the guy with the baseball bat. They called him up when they needed someone to bash someone's skull in. I don't really know if that fits for Paul Craig here. That's all I like about him here is that nickname. He loves the takedowns. Hill, on the other hand, has great takedown defense. Not great, good. 53% of the time he's defending takedowns. And Craig loves the takedowns and he loves wrestling, but he isn't as good on his feet as Hill. Hill lands, we want to talk about significant strike numbers. He lands 8 significant strikes per minute on average, which is pretty significant. Craig doesn't land nearly as many strikes, not to mention Hill will be coming in an inch taller with a 3-inch reach advantage, and he's 4 years younger than Craig. So I'm going to take Hill here. He's a semi-lock. Minus 290. Don't like him straight, but definitely a parlay booster right there. Massive parlay booster. That's all as long as Hill doesn't test positive for pot again. He should be 9-0. He's 8-0 because his last win, he did test positive for marijuana afterwards. So as long as he doesn't ping up for pot, this is a win for Hill here. What do you think about that one, Tom?
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. Paul Craig, I mean, he's just the caliber of opponent that he has faced compared to Jamahal Hill it's just not comparable. Jamahal Hill is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage over him. Like you said, the significant strike numbers are definitely significant. I think he's going to overpower Paul Craig. Paul Craig, his claim is that he's a little bit of a better grappler. But I think Jamahal Hill is going to be able to defend the takedown, number one. And Paul Craig, I'm not even sure I believe his claim that he's a better grappler because he, took down Shogun Rua. But at the end of the day, that was a very old Shogun. And, almost anything, Augusta Win takes that guy down now. So, that being said, I don't know if that's something to hang your hat on. You look at the rest of his opponents, no one's really sticking out. Jamahal Hill's most recent win is over OSP, which is something that, no matter, he's not very old. He's in the latter stages of his career, but still not done yet. A win over OSP is definitely significant in this case. Like you said, he had a no contest against Abreu, which was actually a win, and he just smoked pot. And luckily, I think the UFC or USADA or somebody came out and said they're really no longer testing for it as long as you're not high in the cage, which could potentially be a problem for Nate Diaz. That being said, I think it's going to be Jamahal Hill all the way.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Nick, what do you got?
Yeah, I honestly would go with Hill as much as, as the Italian Jew. I kind of feel bad for going against the Bear Jew, but, Hill with a little bit of a reach advantage and being a southpaw and having that strike rate, which is insane. I don't really know much about Craig, I mean, I kind of know, but I haven't really watched many of his fights, and I did watch the last Hill fight. I would say I could see that being a knockout.
Okay. I wouldn't go as far to say that, but Nick, I'm going to put this on you right now. Everybody's going to be following you on Instagram after this video. All of our fans out there, everybody watching at home. So what you're going to have to do is if you're taking Hill by a knockout, you're going to have to put it on your story. You're going to have to tag us, and you're going to let the people at home know the odds and what you're taking. So Hill by knockout, we're going to have to get those odds.
This is a hot take. This is a hot take. He's going to knock him out cold. I'm going to call it. I'm going to call early second round.
Okay.
Early second round knockout for Hill over Craig. I see it happening. He's probably pissed off. You know, I don't want to test Nick. I don't want to test positive for marijuana when people are getting tested positive for COVID and they give me shit for it. Get the fuck out of here. Knock him out early second round. Call it a day.
Love the take, dude. I love it. So next up on this card, we got Demian Maia, plus 190 versus Belal Muhammad coming in at minus 235. Heavy favorite right there. Tom, what do you got for us on this fight?
Hold on 1 second. I'm looking up to see if I could get the odds on a second round knockout by Jamahal Hill.
Let's see.
Here we go. Plus 650.
Plus 650 for a second round knockout. I love it.
I should put $500 on it.
500 to win. Quick math.
What's 5 times 6? 30.
Yeah, so that'll be about 3K, 3,500 just about.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. Yo, if you're right, and a lot of people are tailing Nick B out here, you're gonna make some people some money, man. So make sure
I'm gonna have to come back on the show if that happens.
Yo, absolutely. If that happens, you're an absolute guru. You might be a fortune teller on par with like Nostradamus. We're gonna have to get Nick a crystal ball out here so that when his predictions come up, they show up on there. List. You're gonna have to edit that in unless Nick actually goes out.
We'll call it Nick's picks.
There you go. Love it.
I don't hate that. Maybe we're the new contributor for pickinwinners.org over here. We'll have to see. So, Tom, we're gonna jump into this Demian Maia fight just to repeat the odds. We got plus 190 versus Belal Muhammad coming in at minus 235. Tom, what do you got here?
Yeah, listen, I don't know if this is gonna be such a great card to bet on because there's a lot of favorites, and they're favorites for a reason. In this case, you have Demian Maia, who is north of 65 years old at this point. Belal Muhammad just fought Leon Edwards, and I think he's riding high on his confidence, being that Leon Edwards is top 3, top 4 in the division. He went around with him. Granted, he didn't win the round, but after having your eyelash peeled off, I don't think he's got too much pain to worry about. I think Belal is really confident coming in with his skills. Demian Maia is a little bit taller, but they have the same amount of reach. I don't think Damian's going to be able to take down Belal Muhammad. I mean, you look at a picture of this guy, and he looks jacked. He is a huge guy, Belal is. I don't think Damian's going to be able to take him down. Maybe, in Damian's prime, but certainly not now. Belal's going to be able to definitely outpace him on the feet. I mean, look at it this way. Demian Maia was just a little bit better than Ben Askren when they fought. He was piecing him up, but you could tell that these were definitely 2 low caliber strikers. And Demian Maia thrives on the ground. If Demian Maia is not able to take you down, I think you have a real problem, or at least Demian Maia has a real problem if he can't take you down. And Belal, a guy who's definitely sufficient on the feet, stood with Leon Edwards, got a couple hits in there, earlier this year. I think this is, as close to this is another lock is Belal Muhammad. Maybe you could put that in, combined with a parlay with the locks that we had earlier on the show. But that being said, yeah, I think I love Belal Muhammad here, and I would definitely be shocked if Demian Maia wins. And if Demian Maia does win, it just ruins Belal Muhammad's career. It's like I don't know. It's like playing spoiler to a team that's basically ready to make the playoffs, and for whatever reason they lose the last three games of a series, and just they blow it. So or towards the end of it, I'm just rambling now. Forget it. Either way, Belal Muhammad is going to win this, and it's a very, very safe bet.
Yeah, we'll have our finalized parlay up there for you on pickinwinners.org. But yeah, definitely going to throw Belal Muhammad into my parlay. Minus 235. not odds that you really want to bet straight. That's that's $235 to win 100. So not great, but just to clarify for everyone at home, that was a joke. Tom is not old. I'm sorry. Tom said that Damian Maia is north of 65. He's actually 43. That's still really old. You might as well be 65 in the UFC if you're 43 years old. He doesn't throw strikes or takedowns the way that he used to. He doesn't have that same level of strength anymore. You do start to see, we've mentioned this before, that when older fighters step in there, they don't really have the same level of ferocity anymore. They're a little bit more laid back. So, you have that to worry about with Damian Maia here. Belal Muhammad, on the other hand, has been fighting some great competition. You mentioned that Leon Edwards fight, his last fight back in March, where he did have, it's gruesome. We'll try and get Liz to throw up a picture of this on the screen right now. You got Leon Edwards' finger in Belal Muhammad's eyelid, absolutely just wrenching it. It looked like he was trying to pull his eye out of his socket. So that was his last fight. And yeah, Leon's also on this card. We mentioned before there's a lot of setup fights here. I think this is a big setup fight for Belal Muhammad, to kind of put him back in the spotlight after that Leon Edwards mishap. A name like Damian Maia does carry a lot of weight in the UFC still. But the UFC loves Belal. They want him to be a star. They put him on the commentating team for some of the fight nights. And Damian Maia, he is a name. He does have wins over guys like Ben Askren, who is somehow the most popular guy in the UFC, or outside of the UFC, former UFC fighter now. So, yeah, I definitely think Belal is a lock here. I'm going to be throwing him up in the parlay. Belal Muhammad to win it. Don't know if it's going to come by knockout. He doesn't necessarily have that kind of knockout power, but he is so technically sound that I think this could be a decision win for Belal. What do you got, Nick?
Yeah, this is a tough one, but not fighting in for a whole year, I feel like that's tough, especially I don't know what his regiment's like. I'm sure it's great, but I'm sure Bilal's been at it because he's had 2 fights in the last year, so it's tough to come back from a year compared to someone who's been fighting, constantly. So, you got to go with Belal at this point just because, how could you not?
Yeah, tough to come back from a year, especially when you're 43 years old.
Yeah, that's even worse.
Yeah, that's got to be the biggest factor going in for this one. So next up, we have one of the most talked about fights, one of the most popping off on social media type of fights right now, because we do have a fan favorite versus an up-and-comer. And this is a tough one here. All right, first off, let me mention the odds. We got Leon Edwards coming in at minus 500. Heavy favorite versus Nate Diaz at plus 380. That's still a heavy underdog. So this is a tough one here. And for me, at least, I know Tom and potentially Nick are going to disagree with me here. This is tough for me, not because I think Nate Diaz is as good as Leon Edwards. He's coming in. He's a little bit old. He's another guy that took almost a year off. Didn't stop training. Said he was just waiting for fans to be back in the arenas. So that's a good excuse in my book, personally, to not be fighting but still be training. But this is tough because I love big underdog lines. And Nate Diaz will always be a favorite of mine as a longtime fan of the UFC. You can never really count Nate out. We could make the same case for Leon as we did for Belal and Chase Hooper and Sean O'Malley and guys like that, though, that the UFC loves him. They want him to have a huge win against a very reputable, if not a household name. Leon already has decision wins over guys like RDA and Cowboy that everybody knows. Plus, Nate has so much scar tissue all over his face that it'll open up and bleed to high heavens. He'll drip gallons out of his face if someone coughed at him or something, or if a strong enough breeze blew that had the trees going a little bit. All of a sudden, Nate Diaz is opened up like he got hit by a truck. So I personally can't see Leon losing, but at minus 500 and against a guy like Nate Diaz, who you can never count out, I don't even want to put money on him here. This is our betting episode, but minus 500, that's 500 to win $100. 50 to win 10 if you're a small bettor. Don't really like it, but I may sprinkle the tiniest chunk of cash on Nate Diaz just because I'm a fan And if I lose, it's not a lot of money. Oh, well. And I did see a good meme a while back. I'll try and find it so we can put that up on screen for you. It said, Nate Diaz doesn't lose fights. He just runs out of time. Well, if this is the case, Nate could have a chance. You know, memes do kind of run the internet and rule the world at this point. We've had people get elected over memes. So if he can avoid bleeding too much to where, you know, the commission and whoever the ref is for this one feels like they have to stop the fight, he does still have a chance because it is a 5-round bout. But Leon has a title shot on his hands, so I personally wouldn't be surprised if Leon went out there and just tried to knock out Nate Diaz. Nate's a little bit older, hasn't fought in a while. All signs point Leon, but like I said, going to sprinkle a little bit on Nate Diaz at that plus 380 line. I'm an investor. I like to kind of be a little bit risky with my cash out there, so won't throw too much on Nate, but I can't pass up that 380 line on a guy like Nate Diaz. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you with the most part. For the most part, you know, listen, Leon Edwards is he's going to beat Nate Diaz. Everything on paper points to him beating Nate Diaz. The physique says he points to beating Nate Diaz. And Nate Diaz is, you know, he was on Tough in 2007. That's 14 years ago, and he's 36 years old. So he was on there when he was 22, and he was just a prospect. So he is kind of part of the old guard of the UFC. Like, he was fighting around when GSP was fighting, when all, you know, Mark Hunt was fighting. These guys were big back then in 2010, 11, 12, and 13. So I think of Nate as kind of like the old guard. And in the wise words of GSP himself, he says that, you know, fighters tomorrow are going to be better than today, but today are better than yesterday. And that's kind of the case here. Leon Edwards is part of like the new guard and the new part of the UFC, the new face. And Nate Diaz is part of the old. And just because he was young, and I'm not saying his career is over, but when you're going to compare skill levels, first of all, Nate is outside of his prime. We're at the very tail end, if you want to even just say that. I think his prime is going to be lower. His top end skill level in his prime is going to be lower than Leon Edwards is, because Leon Edwards is part of like the new guard. He's part of the, you know, even only separated by maybe a handful of years in terms of age. I think it does a lot in terms of the development of martial arts over a period of time as you're learning. And, you know, I think Leon Edwards, he's got, you know, he's the longer man, the taller man. You know, actually, he doesn't have a reach advantage. But that being said, I don't know if he really needs it. I think he's just better in basically all areas. You know, Keith, yourself, you like to think of Nate Diaz as a jiu-jitsu specialist, and he is. However, he's gotten one submission win over Conor McGregor, who had a staph infection in 2016, and before that, it was in 2012. So, you know, yeah, you always say he's a threat on the ground, but literally history does not show that. So, you know, maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but at 36 years old, I don't see him being a threat really anywhere for Leon Edwards. That being said, when it comes to betting and putting my money at minus 500, I don't want to bet anything on it. I don't want to take that at all. So I'm going to stay away from betting on Leon. I don't even know if I want to put it in a parlay because, you know, listen, for me, this is the one on the card that, you know, we said that there's a lot of setup fights and there's a lot of fights, you know, that are very skewed and you know who's going to win. I think this is the one that you would definitely put on upset alert above any else, because you never know what's going to happen with Nate Diaz, and we all want to count him out. And it would be the Cinderella story that befits Nate Diaz's career for him to come in there and just fucking sleep Leon or beat him in a decision. Like, that's what you would expect to happen if this was a movie about Nate Diaz. Unfortunately, it's not a movie about Nate Diaz, and I think Leon's going to win. But just like you, Keith, I would sprinkle a little bit of money on that juicy 380.
Yeah, it's a tough one for those reasons. Yeah, that minus 500 doesn't really spell a lot of promise there because, yeah, you can't count Nate out. So, Nick, I'm sorry, what are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, short and sweet. I hope Diaz wins. You know, there's nothing better than a Nate Diaz post-fight reaction scene. You know, the way he goes about it, I just fucking love it. You know, I mean, second to Conor McGregor, I think Diaz is just awesome. I've been watching a lot of his stuff on YouTube. He's putting out a lot of vlog content. You know, seeing the way he goes about things, I really have kind of grown a liking to his personality a lot more. So I've kind of connected to him a little bit more, and you know. There's nothing like, you know, seeing like a Phil Mickelson at age 50 coming in and win the PGA championship, you know. So it'd be cool to see him do it, you know, big knockout, you know, something like that, you know. It would just be fun to see it, you know. If Edwards wins, I wouldn't be mad. I'd be kind of happy, you know, because like you said, he's kind of coming into his own and becoming the face of it. But, you know, you can't knock him Diaz if he does pull it out.
Tom, one thing I do want to go back to a little bit, When was that Conor McGregor submission?
2016.
And when was his submission win before that?
You're a prick. 2012.
Okay, so every 4 years, we got some trends in life, right? We got last week, Jairzinho Rosenstrike. He goes and he loses one fight, and then he comes back and wins the next. Then he loses, and then he comes and wins back the next. Every 4 years, it's like the Olympics. Look at that. I made Tom leave the room. Every 4 years, it's like the Olympics. Every 4 years, it seems to be that Nate Diaz gets a submission win. Leon Edwards, his ground game's not bad, but I wouldn't really say that he is like a great jiu-jitsu guy in the way that I kind of, Tom mentioned it before, in the way that I think that Nate Diaz is. He works with the Gracie guys. He is really good at jiu-jitsu. You never know. Every 4 years, maybe it's a trend. Maybe it's like some kind of thing that lines up with the stars where Nate Diaz comes around every 4 years like the Olympics and gets a submission win. I'm not saying it's likely, but the numbers do line up. There are trends in this universe, right? Like, I don't know if there's people out there. I don't know if there's people out there that are like astrology people, but who knows, man? Those stars might line up, and Nate Diaz might just put Leon Edwards into a submission and give him the middle finger and stop and slap him while he's doing it. We'll see.
Yeah, I had to leave the room. I didn't want my allergies to act up. I'm allergic to terrible bullshit takes, so I had to leave the room. I came back a little bit prematurely, so hopefully that doesn't affect me. My eyes are starting to water a little, so.
Oh
yeah. But they completely disregard everything Keith said. There's no way that that Nate Diaz submits Leon Edwards. If that happens, I don't know what I'll do.
I'll tell you what I'm gonna do.
Comments about things I should do.
I'll tell you what I'm gonna do if that happens. If Nate Diaz submits Leon Edwards, I'm gonna cut this clip and I'm gonna be blasting it on my Twitter, on my Instagram. It's gonna be on YouTube. It's gonna be Tom saying, "Oh, that's nonsense. I'm allergic to bullshit takes." That's gonna be everywhere, bro. So, Nick,
I will sleep easy. That doesn't concern me one bit.
Oh, I'm going to live for it. Nick, do you have any last-minute talk, any takes about Nate Diaz there? You said everything you want to say on that guy.
Yeah, basically that's all I got. I mean, I'm kind of hoping for a little bit of a, good fight. But, if he knocks him out quick, I'd be happy. If Edwards wins, so be it. But I'm definitely pulling for Diaz here.
Yeah, who doesn't love a little Nate Diaz? You taking everything I worked for, Conor McGregor. Who doesn't love that? So next fight up, we got Deiveson Figueiredo, -250 versus Brandon Moreno at +200. I do want to kick this one off by saying that if you watch UFC Embedded, Figueiredo is very, very, very angry at Brandon Moreno. It's him saying it. It's his coaches saying it. Great vlog series that the UFC puts out week by week, and there is clearly a vendetta there.
Mm-hmm.
Moreno said in their last fight, because this is a rematch of the title fight that ended in a draw, and Deiveson Figueiredo was in the hospital like the week of this fight because he had
the night before.
Wow, that's crazy. The night
before with food poisoning, got out of his hospital bed and then walked into an arena to fight Brandon Moreno and fought him to a draw. That he really should have won if they didn't take the point away. Granted, I mean, you could make a comment, or you can talk about how the kick to the balls affected Brandon Moreno, and there's definitely something to be said there. There's also something to be said that Deiveson Figueiredo came into that fight in the previous place that he was at before being at the arena was the hospital with, food poisoning overnight. Also, Deiveson Figueiredo cuts a lot of weight. You could tell by how big he is as compared to Brandon Moreno in the cage. And sorry, not to hijack this from you, Keith, but, Deiveson Figueiredo had fought just 3 weeks before. Now, so did Brandon Moreno, but Deiveson Figueiredo had fought 3 weeks before, cut weight, fought, then got the notification that he was going to fight Brandon Moreno on 3 weeks' notice, cut weight again. So that was probably the worst Deiveson Figueiredo that we were going to see. And he still got it done against Brandon Moreno. There's a reason he kept the belt. The belt stays with the champion. But, if you're going to look at points and not, add that the groin strike, he did win that fight on many judges' scorecards. or one, he won it outright, so he would have won by 2 points. And on the other judges' scorecards, he just tied. So he was very close to winning that, even with the point deduction. So I think, a fully healthy Deiveson Figueiredo. He had fought 3 times last year. That was his 4th fight last year. It was incredible amount of activity for a champion. So now you give him time to rest. You give him time to do a proper weight cut, do a proper training camp. He's, more relaxed. He doesn't have food poisoning. And given that, rematches generally go to the guy who won it the first time, that's all you need to know to want to give it to Deiveson Figueiredo. And he's also fighting with a vendetta. It's hard to pick against that guy.
Yeah, that anger that he has towards Moreno is definitely going to help him finish this fight. I don't think it'll go to decision this time around, just because if he sees an opening, he's not going to be as conservative as he was the last time, worried about, saving his stamina, saving his energy, not gassing out. I have a feeling he's going to be going for the kill in this fight. Do you think that having food poisoning, well, no, if it was the night before, it wouldn't really affect it because they do weigh-ins, 2 days before, a day before? But
yeah, he had gotten food poisoning after had already weighed in.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think that food poisoning, throwing up and, excreting all sorts of stuff in the hospital maybe helped him with his weight cut, but that wouldn't come into effect there.
It would probably hurt because he'd be dehydrated before when he would need to be dehydrated. So you would have to either rehydrate, which would fuck up your weight cut, or, you aren't able to train well enough. So it's harder to cut weight because you're beyond as hydrated, or you're less hydrated than you should be at that stage. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, maybe some of these guys take a laxative before they go in for weight cuts, and that's how they lose a ton of weight all at once. I won't say, I'm not a fighter, but who knows? But yeah, I think that angry Figueiredo is definitely going to come through in this fight. Yeah, you had Moreno saying, I didn't get the best version of Figueiredo. Or actually, no, I did get the best version of Figueiredo. He wasn't really sick. He wasn't really hurt. Well, Moreno, you dug yourself a little bit of a hole here. Now it's time for you to go land it. Figueiredo, maybe to win by a knockout, most likely to win by a decision. But I think if he gets those openings, he's going to be laying it on Moreno heavily. And when you just see pictures of these guys on social media, I know that doesn't mean a lot, but I love the side-by-sides. You got Deiveson Figueiredo holding up 2 massive guns, and then the side-by-side on that is Brandon Moreno sitting in his little office with his little Funko Pops and his Lego collection. It's like, who's the tough guy here? I definitely think Figueiredo is the tougher of the 2, but who knows? Maybe Legos make you tough. So, Nick, you got anything to say about that fight, that matchup?
Yeah, I feel like Moreno would have to win. I feel like he would have to catch him. But, I think Figueiredo is going to come in with a little bit of a motivation, and I think he'll end it swiftly compared to letting it go the distance. I think he wants to get it over with and make a statement rather than just letting Moreno kind of walk all over him, if that's even possible. So I think Figueiredo, knockout or, TKO.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, that'll be tough, but the only way that you're going to find out our last minute picks on whether or not we're taking knockout, decision, whatever props we decide to pick, or if we just take the fighters straight up, add them to the parlay, whatever we do, you follow us down here. You look at pickinwinners.org. We will have plenty of picks up for you on our socials and on Pickin' Winners and on our Instagram as well. So make sure you check all that out. That's the only way you're going to get the last minute picks. So the main event, we got Israel Adesanya, the last style bender, minus 260 versus Marvin Vettori. I don't even know his nickname, but
Italian Dream.
The Italian Dream, the Italian Stallion, crazy Mario, jacked up on his mushrooms. He's coming in at plus 200. This is a rematch of Izzy, what I like to think was probably his hardest fight as the middleweight champ, the most disputed. He
wasn't the middleweight champ when he fought him, though.
Was that not for the belt the last time? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Well, now he's the middleweight champ.
He fought him, and then he had another fight, and then he fought Gastelum for the belt.
Okay, well, you got me wrong there on that one, but still.
And then he fought Whitaker for the championship belt. And then he fought Romero. And then he fought Costa. And
Costa on his one.
Then he fought Blachowicz, Jan Blachowicz.
I mean, I would definitely say it was still his toughest fight because everyone else he makes look like they have never fought inside of an octagon before. And Marvin Vettori, split decision wins. So craziest part about this is taking place in the exact same building that it took place in the last time. Everything here spells Izzy, except for the fact that Chael, if you know Chael, you know two things about Chael. One, the best trash talker in all of UFC history, never said a four-letter word, and yet made everyone look stupid, feel stupid, and yeah. Number two, he always picks fights wrong. Not always. You know, he picks.
Almost always.
Yeah, almost always. I mean, his record is definitely against him here, and guess who he picked today? He picked the champ, Israel Adesanya, to win this. So let's see if the Chael curse really rings true and it continues into this week. Tom, tell me why Chael is right.
I mean, listen, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So, you know, he's got to be right at some point, especially when you're going to pick this fight. So, you know, yeah, it was a hard-fought fight last time. That was also in 2017. The question is, both of these guys have gotten better, right? But who has gotten
more better?
Better. Who's gotten the better of who?
Who's improved the most?
Yes, that's what I was trying to say. They both improved, but who's improved more? And I think that's Izzy Adesanya. Look, if we go through Izzy's fights, like basically the tale of or the timeline since these guys have fought. So they fought back in 2017. After that, he fought Derek Brunson. Or actually, no, he didn't fight Derek Brunson. He fought Marvin Vettori. Then he fought Brad Tavares. So Marvin Vettori took him down and kind of held him down at periods, right? Then Izzy, he fights 3 months later in July. April to July, 3 months later, fights Brad Tavares. He gets taken down by Brad Tavares, but this time he pops right back up. And then in November, 4 months later, he fights Derek Brunson, and this time Derek Brunson doesn't take him down. Derek Brunson is a very solid wrestler. We saw him out-wrestle Kevin Holland, and we saw Marvin Vettori do the same thing. Would you say that Derek Brunson or Marvin Vettori, either one did far superior against Kevin Holland than the other? I think those were almost identical fights. And you can make an argument that Marvin Vettori didn't showcase his full, skill set, but then why did he automatically get a title shot after not showcasing his skill set? I think he is maybe just a touch better than Derek Brunson, and we saw Izzy Adesanya versus Derek Brunson in 2018, and Izzy dominated him. So, 9 months later, Izzy Adesanya is already twice more evolved than his counterpart earlier that year that fought Marvin Vettori, and that was in 2018. I was saying 2017. Since then, Marvin Vettori, he's had a couple good wins, not of the anywhere near the caliber of Izzy. I mean, he beat Jack Hermanson, he beat Kevin Holland, both solid guys in the the ladder, the 5 to 10 or 5 to 12 range of the division. Izzy has fought literally the top. He fought Gastelum and took the interim belt. Fought Whitaker, and Whitaker is basically as good of a striker as you can get at the 85 division, and he slept him in the second round. So he fights Romero, an Olympic medalist. Granted, he doesn't use his wrestling, but he chose not to use his wrestling against Izzy. Why? Maybe it would be ineffective. So Yoel Romero, he fought to a decision there. Against Costa, slept Costa in the second round. It might even have been the first round, or it was probably the second round. Slept Costa in the second round. Costa was known as a pretty solid wrestler. So all of these people, and then you have Jan Blachowicz, and Izzy for that fight. He gained like 7 pounds. Basically, just didn't cut any. He weighed in at like 193 or something, and Jan weighed in there at at the 205-pound limit, but got in the cage weighing probably 230, and was able to. And listen, nobody talks about this, but he is a Brazilian black belt himself in jiu-jitsu, Jan Blachowicz is. People don't talk about that. He's also an amazing and very accomplished striker. So this guy, and aside from just being huge and having the Polish power, is also very good. Let's not discount how good Jan is. And listen, martial arts were created so that a more skilled, smaller guy could beat a less skilled, bigger guy. But the fact of the matter is a more skilled, smaller guy and a very skilled bigger guy, the bigger guy is always going to win. And that was the case here. If Izzy wants to contend at the light heavyweight division, he's got to put on more weight, and here's the other thing. Jan is long. Izzy I think, has an 80-inch reach. I think Jan has like a 78, 79-inch reach. And that's another reason why Izzy struggled, because he's not used to somebody with such a long reach. Marvin Vettori doesn't have anywhere near that reach. He has a 74-inch reach. I think Izzy is going to be able to use his long legs, his knees, and his long strikes to keep Marvin at a distance. If Marvin tries to come in, I think he's going to catch a knee. There's a reason why Izzy has dominated this division for so long and kept people on the outside and picked them apart. It's because he's longer than them, he's quicker than them, and he's a better striker than them. He's been in there with wrestlers just as good, if not better than Vettori, and they haven't gotten him down. Izzy's the king at 85. He'll be the king right now. He'll be the king on Sunday.
Well, eventually, Tom, every king loses his crown. The dynasty has to go down. Izzy, yeah, he got his first loss against Jan Blachowicz. I think he gets a second loss here against Marvin Vettori.
You're crazy.
Listen, we've never had an Italian champ in the UFC before.
We've never had a woman president.
Yeah, well, everything changes eventually, right? We came pretty close once upon a time. And
it has to be the right person for the job, right, okay. Keith? And Marvin Vettori is not the right person for the job.
Well said, well said. Marvin Vettori is putting the whole country of Italy on his back. He comes from a beautiful city called Mezzacarona. If you've ever been to Italy, you are very familiar with it. Wine country, beautiful place. Great food, great women, and a great UFC fighter by the name of Marvin Vettori. Listen, say what you want about him. You compared him to Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson doesn't have the striking ability that Marvin Vettori does. Plain, simple facts.
Kevin Holland beat Marvin Vettori on the feet, and Kevin Holland doesn't have the striking ability that Izzy Adesanya does.
Marvin Vettori just beat Kevin Holland.
On the ground, he took him down and he held him there. Kevin Holland standing up pieced Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori is very hittable, and you don't want to be – that's not a trait or a quality you want to have when going against Izzy Adesanya.
No, he doesn't move his head as much as you would like to see him, and he is very stand in there and take it on the chin. No denying that whatsoever. But I will say this. Marvin Vettori saw that there were a lot of holes in Izzy Adesanya's game. And, yeah, say what you want. Obviously, okay, yeah, Jan was almost 50 pounds heavier than Izzy. But at the same time, there's no denying that that was a setup fight because the UFC wants Izzy to be that guy. They want him to be the next double champ. They thought that, okay, we'll put Jan Blachowicz in, who's never had a title defense, in there against Izzy Adesanya. It'll be an easy win for Izzy. I think Izzy, personally, I could be wrong, right? All signs do point Izzy. But I'm really feeling Marvin Vettori. My gut has never pointed me in the wrong direction. My brain last week was telling me Augusto Sakai. My gut told me Jairzinho Rosenstrike. Well, guess who got that knockout? It was Jairzinho. I'm feeling the same way here about Vettori. This gut's big, and it's not because of all the beer. It's because it's got a lot of thought. It's got a lot of thought down there. It's doing a lot of thinking. Some people got big brains that tell them what to do. I got a big gut that tells me what to do. It's leading me in Vettori's direction right now. I'm really feeling him here. I have a feeling that Marvin is going to take Izzy to the ground. He's going to land a lot of strikes on the ground. He's not going to have any answers for Izzy on the feet, potentially get hit a few times, nothing too crazy. He's not going to be damaged heavily, which we know is something that men's fights are scored on a lot. And Vettori is going to bring Izzy to the ground and do the damage on the ground, plus get the control time, which is going to win it for him on the cards. Now, is it going to be 5 rounds to none? Is it going to be a 50 to 48 fight? No, absolutely not. Izzy's going to win a few rounds. I see this one going to decision. Izzy is calling for a knockout himself. I don't think it's going to happen because we've seen that Marvin's chin is tested and can withstand a lot of damage.
How was Paulo Costa's?
Well, Paulo Costa did admit afterwards he was drinking a ton of wine the night before.
Oh, and what are the Italians known for?
Marvin Vettori takes this very, very seriously. Like I said, he's putting the whole country of Italy on his back. He's not going to be out boozing the night before. If you watch him betted, which we mentioned before, all the guys at his table are all drinking their wine while they're eating their beautiful Mediterranean fish. Marvin Vettori, a glass of water. There's
How'd
no.
that work out for Stipe Miocic fight week against Francis Ngannou a couple months ago? He did the same shit, dude. Like, come on. You really think Marvin Vettori is gonna lose or win he's gonna beat Izzy?
Like I said,
Dude, Izzy, if
thing up
anything,
here.
looking back on it, I think Izzy was a setup fight to make Jan more of a, known as a champion. People were overlooking Jan. They were like, oh, Jan, whatever. He was just, he's really not the champ. He's just there, the interim champ, because John's not there. And then he goes out and he actually beats a guy like Izzy Adesanya, who's a star and knowing how good of a striker he is. It's like, okay, now Jan has some gusto behind his name. And then Izzy Adesanya is going to go back and get some gusto behind his name by beating Marvin Vettori. Like, they don't want Marvin Vettori as champion. Marvin Vettori, he's not a good talker. He's annoying, and he's not fun annoying. He's just like the 12-year-old who's like, I could beat you. It's like, no, you can't. I'm going easy on you, and you think you can beat me, but you can't. If I went hard on you, you would cry, and I'd get in trouble with your mom. And that's the kind of annoying Marvin Vettori is. And Izzy's gonna beat him, and I cannot believe that you think you're picking Marvin.
Look, and at plus 200, obviously underdog, not a huge underdog. So somebody in Vegas is kind of with me here. But will I be adding Vettori to a parlay? Am I calling him a lock? No way. Because my brain is telling me Izzy. And my brain told me Izzy against Jan. There's no denying that was a setup fight for Izzy. The UFC loves Izzy. Jan Blachowicz, they looked at him and they said, this guy's old. He's going to come and go like, yesterday's news. Izzy, on the other hand, he's so marketable. They put him against Jan, who was untested. There's no other way to put it. I mean, he was a journeyman for many, many years, was almost out of the UFC, and somehow snapped out of that and came back. When Marvin Vettori has Izzy on his back and is crawling all over him, I mean, maybe he'll look like a wet blanket and just be sitting on Izzy the whole time, but those control time points do matter. Izzy's going to have flashbacks to that fight against Jan, and he's going to remember not getting his hand raised. That's going to do one of two things to Izzy. That's going to make him say, okay, I need to get out of this position, or shit, it's happening again. And I have a feeling that with a guy like Izzy, who was lossless before Jan Blachowicz, I have a feeling that this little dump in confidence for Izzy, boost in confidence for Vettori coming off a good win streak right now, it's going to do a lot for Vettori, not so much for Izzy. Izzy's going to have that little PTSD going into this one, like I can't get out wrestled again. He's going to be very, very aggressive on the feet. We all know Izzy loves to spin and go up there on one leg. Vettori has improved a lot. He's going to see Izzy spinning before it even happens, and he's going to shoot for a single leg takedown on a guy who's unstable on one leg. I can see this happening right now. And he's going to take him to the ground. He's going to be all over him like one of those super heavy weighted anxiety blankets. And he's going to win by control time. I give 2 rounds to Izzy, 3 rounds to Vettori, based purely on control time. But it's just, look, my brain was telling me Izzy when he fought Jan Blachowicz. Last minute, switched it up, put it out on Twitter. I'm taking Jan in this one. Jan went out there and did the thing. I'm taking Marvin Vettori to do the thing in this one. Tom, I'm going to give you your last chance to make a couple of mute points right now that will be completely irrelevant come Sunday. So let's hear them.
Marwan Americani recently had more control time than Kamwela Kirk, and Kamwela Kirk still won because he beat him on the feet, and the control time didn't do anything because no positions were advanced and he didn't do much damage. I think if Marvin can get him down and it tries to pull that same thing, the same thing that he did against Kevin Holland, and the same thing that Derek Brunson did against Kevin Holland, the same thing that Marwan Americani did against Kamwela Kirk last weekend, I think you're going to see Israel Adesanya still be crowned. That's if he can get him down. I don't think he's going to get him down. If he can, I think Izzy's going to get up, and I think Izzy's going to piece him on the feet enough to win at least 3 rounds. But I think there's going to be a TKO in the 2nd or 3rd round. You say Marvin, he's got a good chin and this and that. I think maybe a 3rd, maybe a 4th round TKO stoppage. I think Izzy Adesanya has not lost a step in terms of his confidence. I think he knows that he went up and he went in light to challenge a guy who was really, really good. And hey, you can't win everything. What he said after that fight was the picture perfect thing. He's like, yo, dare to be great. It didn't work out for me this time, but I'll be back. I'll go, keep my crown on 185. I'm still, the daddy to all of them. I don't think even after he took that loss, I think he took that loss about as well as you could possibly take it. I think he's going to come in here with a renewed sense of vengeance. He's going to piece up 85 to let everybody know who he is. And, y'all must have forgot, like Roy Jones Jr., y'all must have forgot who I am. He's going to come in there. He's going to make a statement against Marvin Vettori. Then he's going to take Robert Whittaker, and he's going to make another statement against him. And if Robert Whittaker doesn't get the rematch against Izzy, I'm going to be so pissed because Robert Whittaker deserves a title shot after this.
Yeah, my last points, don't get me wrong. I think Izzy is walking in there extremely confident, but I think that the second that he's on his back like he was against Dion, there will be that flashback to not getting his hand raised. Secondly, I do want to mention, like I said before, Marvin Vettori plus 200, big underdog, not big underdog, moderate underdog here. Obviously, all signs point Izzy, but I won't be taking Izzy here. I'm going to do the same thing I'm doing with Nate Diaz, sprinkling a little bit more than I am, significantly more than I am with Nate Diaz with that plus 200 line on Vettori. I'm really invested in Vettori as a fan. I like him a lot. The Italian dream lives on. Every king loses his crown eventually. We've all seen Game of Thrones. How many kings got killed in that show?
17.
So, you knew that off the top of your head?
No.
Oh, I was going to say, you must be a big fan, man. But, yeah, I have a feeling. It's just that gut feeling. It possibly couldn't go my way. That would be whatever. It's not going to be a huge loss for me as long as those parlays hit that bring me out on top at the end of the night. That's all that matters. So, you mentioned before, Nick, that you are an Italian. Will you be siding with your Italian brethren here, or are you going to go with the last style bender?
I think I'm gonna have to go with the Italian Brotherhood here. I don't know. So here's my look on it. I love Adesanya. I love him. I really do. He's grown on me over the last couple of years. Seeing his personality kind of come out into full effect. I've connected with him a lot. Really good, really cool guy, really good guy, great fighter. But I don't know if he has it there to come back from a loss like he did. I don't know if he can. Now, could he prove us wrong? Sure, but someone in Vegas doesn't have the confidence in him. You would think he'd be an overwhelming favorite, already beating Vettori, not losing forever in his career until the last fight in a higher weight division. It is what it is. I think Vettori can get in there and possibly control the fight in a way. I think Adesanya may come in there a little bit unorthodox, maybe a little bit trying to just prove a point. He may get caught off guard. But being Adesanya who he is, I feel like, I give him a little bit of a nod, but I kind of am siding with the Italian stallion there.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that underdog money unless you throw way too much on it, and then he does come out looking pretty poorly. And I like your point there. Adesanya coming off a loss, he did win for so long in his career. You mentioned it before. These guys can say what they want to the camera. But how do you really feel inside? What are you really thinking deep down in your heart?
Yeah.
So it is.
And also, I think he's thinking, what happens if I lose again, right? To somebody I already beat. What does that's? I think that's a good topic. What happens to Adesanya if he loses again? What is his career? What is the path for him going forward?
Yeah.
3 letters. GSP.
Paul.
He was under.
Yeah, Jake Paul. He will. No, I can see him fighting Logan Paul for sure.
No, 3 letters. GSP. GSP was on top for so long. Then he lost. And what did he do? He turned around and he won and he beat that guy. So, I don't think Izzy has seen the last of Jan. And I think Izzy has a champion's mindset like GSP, where he's looking at it not as, oh my God, what happens if I lose again? But he goes, okay, now I have a goal. I was on top of 185 for so long that I was getting bored. Now I have a goal. I have to kick everyone's ass here, and then I got to go back and I got to avenge that loss. I think, he's going to learn something from that loss. You lose and you can look at it one of 2 ways. Oh, God, I'm not as good as I thought I was, or, oh, God, I'm not as good as I thought it was, and learn something from the loss and take it with you and become that much better. So I think Izzy's going to take that, learn from it, and be that much better, and I think he's going to use that loss as motivation instead of, it potentially being a hindrance here. And it makes me that much more confident in him. I think he's a champion with a champion's mindset. He's got a renewed sense of vengeance and goals and motivation.
Well, there's only one way that we're going to find out, and that's going to be on Saturday night. we're going to have to wrap it up here. Make sure that you subscribe. If we win you money, hit us up on social. Let us know on Twitter. Follow Nick on his Instagram. He's got some beautiful photos out there for you. Maybe he'll take your picture someday, or maybe he'll even take ours when we make it big. The only way that we're going to make it big is if you hit that subscribe button, though. Nick, it was an absolute pleasure having you here. You were a great guest.
Let me add one more thing.
Yes.
Since we're talking betting odds, investing, everyone take a look at UFC sports cards. It's growing. It's blowing up. If you look into it, the boxes are selling for like $80 a box. If you pull a McGregor, you pull a Nate Diaz, you pull a Usman, there's a lot of money in it, So drop in the comments, some names, because I want to take a look, and some names that I should look out for, because I just got into sports card trading a little bit heavy. I want to see any names that could possibly be on the lookout for finding that stuff.
Absolutely. We love those Panini Prism cards over here. Those are some nice sports cards. And cannot wait until the UFC starts making some NFTs and some knockouts. We're going to have some classic moments. I have a feeling they're going to be putting those out there on the crypto world, out on the market as NFTs. Can't wait to see them. But yeah, those Panini Prism cards, those are really something else. I think they're a little bit better than those Topps baseball cards. They've been around for 100-something years. And Panini is new to the game. They're doing a good job. So that was a good plug right there. If you liked our debates, if you hated our points, and you think we're absolutely dog shit wrong, let us know in the comments. Love to hear it. Even the hate, let it fly down there. We would love it. Bring it on, just like Tom's doing right now. So, Tom, have a great night. As always, Nick, thank you for being on. You were a fantastic guest. Guys, follow up on pickinwinners.org and on our social. That's the only way that you're going to get the last-minute picks. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being with us. And happy betting. Have a great night.